welcome to another Taubmans live colour advice session. My name is Fiona, I'm the Taubmans colour specialist, and we are here this evening to talk about all things colour. For those joining us for the very first time, I welcome you and I'll let you know how our sessions roll. So for the first half an hour, I will be on screen, we'll be streaming live, and it is a fantastic opportunity for you to upload any questions that you do have into our feed. You might be embarking on a new project and you'd like some information, or perhaps you'd like to know something about our wonderful portfolio of products that we have that are designed to protect and beautify your space. I can certainly help you with some amazing products. Or as I said before, if you'd like to talk colour, you've come to the right place. So I'll be here for the first half an hour, live streaming. Upload your questions into the feed. You can start now and I'll do my best to answer them for you. And then after that, I sit back behind the computer, not the camera, for a further half an hour, and that is an opportune time for you to upload any images or photos of areas that you would like some help with, because that's what we're here for. We're talking all things Taubmans tonight, and it's basically a great session that allows you to, ask any questions and get some answers. So I'm going to begin, and the first thing, so what we do, just to give you an idea, we look at all of our social media platforms, and we collate questions that we are constantly getting asked, so that we're bringing you, I guess you could say, the most frequently asked questions. We try to keep it really real so that these sessions do help you. And so a lot of questions have been coming in lately asking about, where do I start and how do I paint the exterior of my home, and where do I put colours? And I understand, you can stand there and look at the whole facade and think, oh my goodness, where do I begin? So I'm going to tackle that first off tonight. And look, we've got questions. It's nothing unusual. Every week there are lots of questions around white. White is one of our most, I'd have to say, loved colours. It's used a lot externally and internally. And, I'll talk a little bit about whites. I've been asked, what sort of whites can I use in my kitchen? I'm just looking at my questions here. What whites can I use in living areas, and sort of what colours can I pop in there as well? So I'm going to tackle those in a moment, but I'm going to begin with the exterior. So when I look to colour up an exterior, so if I'm going out to a client's house and I'm wanting to help them to bring their vision to life, or to give them ideas around how they can create a colour scheme that's going to have everyone envious, they're going to be the talk of the street, and also, people do, believe it or not, they'll knock on your door and they'll say, hey, can you tell me the colours? I love the look of this. So that's what we want to do. We want to create something that looks like that. That's everyone's dream. So it's not that hard. It really isn't that hard. There's a few things that I can help you with. So the first thing to look into is work out where your house is. So, I'm going to always ask, do you live, coastal? Do you live rural? Are you more in the country, etc.? What surrounds you, because you want your house to sit really nice within its environment. So, for example, I'm going to reference coastal. So if you are living coastal, it's using tones that are very reminiscent of the surrounds. So you might be using, beautiful soft whites, soft greys, going into soft blues, deeper blues. Things like that tend to work really, really well when you're creating that coastal aesthetic. Even, sandy sort of tones, reminiscent of sand, the beach. And it creates a house that sits really well within its environment. So first things first, work out where your house is situated. Also, the style of your home can help to define what sort of colours are going to be used on that. And what I mean by that is, if you've got a traditional style home, and if you are, say your home's heritage listed, you're going to be bound by colours that you have to choose from. So, council are going to have stipulations around the colours that can be used. There's generally, if it's something like that, there's generally a colour palette that you need to choose from. So it's doing a little bit of research first before you delve into choosing your colours. Then the next thing I would say is to create that wonderful cohesive aesthetic. And we touched on this last week and also the week before when we had James Treble joining us, which was a fantastic session once we had gotten over the technical difficulties. So it's creating that aesthetic using something which we call 60-30-10. So it's 60-30-10 relies on having 3 colours. So 60% of your main colour, 30% of a secondary, and then 10% is your accent colour. So how would that work externally? Okay, so for the main facade, that may be your 60% of a colour. And then if you're looking at the colour of your garage, the colour of your windows, and the colour of your roof, even going up to your guttering and your fascia, having that as one colour would then become that 30%. And then your 10% may be as simple as having a coloured front door, so you're adding that accent that way. So by doing that, you're creating cohesion, because a really fantastic colour scheme has balance, and you're carrying the colour that, let's just say, is up onto your roof. You're bringing it down as well, say into the windows and the garage door, so it's not a standalone colour. So that creates that cohesion. So when I'm helping people colour up their home, they're things that I use to create that wonderful aesthetic. I also look, as well as, it's really important to have a look and go, okay, if I'm repainting, what stays? What am I having to work with? So it may be that you have brick that's not going to change, and it would then be looking at the tones that exist within the brick, and it may be that you're going to draw a colour from within that, or for example, using a colour wheel. So we know that colours that sit opposite on the colour wheel create a complementary colour scheme, and they tend to work really, really well. So if you've got a red tone brick, choosing a colour that has that green sort of undertone is going to work really, really well, because as I said, they're designed to contrast really well. So I'm not talking about having a bright fire engine red and then having a bright a bright green. I'm talking about when you look at a colour wheel and you pick the opposites, and then you start adding what we call tint, tone and shade. So that's by adding black, white or grey. You can change the level of intensity, and also you can change the tone to the colour. So looking at that colour wheel is another great place. It's going to help you to decide what colours are going to complement what you have. So there are a few tips to creating that beautiful colour scheme. So the first things first, have a look at where your house sits. Draw inspiration from your surrounds. Also applying that 60-30-10 principle, you're wanting to have a really well-balanced colour scheme and well-balanced aesthetic once the overall colour has been placed. And by doing that, you're going to ensure that, using 3, if not 4 colours tends to give you that look, and placing the colour in the right proportions will give you that look as well. And then the other thing, you're going to look at any elements that are going to stay. They are going to help to define what your colour schemes are. So I hope that helps. I'm very, very happy to, if somebody is having building and they're wanting to know something further about external colour schemes, really happy to help as well. And the other thing as well that I should mention is, when I'm talking about your roof, the roof colour, your garage door colour, or your windows, etc., 9 times out of 10, they're probably a ColourBond colour, so you're going to be working with a ColourBond colour as well, and you can create the most beautiful colour schemes working with those. So that's a really good starting point. I'm very happy to pop something into the feed with some pointers around that once we finish streaming. Okay, so I do have a question from Carolyn. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. So I'm building a new house. What colour white do you recommend for internal wall colours and external colours? Okay, so it all depends on what else, Caroline, is going to go into the design internally, if you like. So, for example, your flooring, the colour of your joinery in a kitchen, things like that are certainly going to help to define your overall colour scheme. Okay, so I think... okay, thank you. So you've got white tones with oak. So you like coastal decor. You've got white tones with, okay, yeah, for cabinetry. White colour shade of, sorry, what colour shade of white would you recommend? Okay, the colour, there's a few. So if you're doing coastal, the first colour I think of is, it's a wonderful colour. It's called Alpine Snow. And the reason I tend to default to that colour is because of the slight undertone that exists within the colour. And it sits really, really well. So when we talk about coastal, or as previously, Hamptons, and when we talk about Hamptons, there's a beautiful, they use a Carrara or a Calcutta sort of marble that has that vein that runs through, so that soft grey vein. And there's a wonderful colour that sits beautifully with that called Alpine Snow. So that's a colour that I would definitely recommend having a look at. I'm going to hold it up here. You probably won't be able to see a huge amount of contrast on the screen here. It's the third colour down. So that's called Alpine Snow. The other colour I would recommend is my favourite colour of all time, which is a colour called, it's above here, it's a colour called Crisp White. So Alpine Snow and Crisp White. Now what makes Crisp White so wonderful is when you look at whites, they start out as a brilliant white base. So brilliant white, I'm going to reference Endure. Brilliant white in our Endure. It's a beautiful, vibrant white. It contains a high level of titanium dioxide, which gives it its beautiful whiteness, if you like, and it also gives it what we call exceptional coverage. So it's not the spread rate, it's how it covers on your walls, and it's beautiful. I know I use that word beautiful a lot, but it's a fantastic product. I absolutely adore Endure. Now, when you tint, when you select a colour and then you tint it, so as I said, we're starting off from a white base. Crisp White contains a tinter which is called Raw Umber. You look at it in its entirety and it's a murky sort of, brown. It's not something that I would recommend, but what it does, when it goes into the white, it gives the white a very, very soft glow. And it is the most wonderful white. It's almost like it's almost like a chameleon style white. You can put it anywhere and it's going to work anywhere. So you can use it internally in rooms that are drenched in sun, equally as well in rooms that lack sunlight. And it just has enough tint in it just to take the edge off, because some whites can look a little bit blue and then it can make them look quite cool. But it's not, it's minimal tint, but it is the most beautiful colour. It's our number one white. I use it myself when I'm talking to people about colour. I've used it in a lot of homes that we have renovated because I simply love the look that it gives and the way it just works. So Crisp White is a colour that you can't go past. But what I would recommend you doing is getting yourself a couple of sample pots. So test your Alpine Snow and test Crisp White. Getting a sample pot, getting a large piece of cardboard. So when our paint comes into, say, a Bunnings store, it comes in on large pallets, and in between each layer of paint is what we call pallet liners. So they're large pieces of cardboard. So if you acquire one of those from Bunnings, say, from us, the paint team members, and if you cut yourself a metre by a metre square and brush out 3 coats of the sample pot paint onto it, so 3 coats. The first coat's going to aid as an undercoat, and then the 2 further coats are standard because most of our paints are a 2-coat system. So once it's dry, test it in 2 areas. So here's your wall, here's your floor. Sitting your sample up against your wall so it's touching the floor. Then you can see how the colour is influenced by your flooring or anything else that exists within that space. The other place is to test it. Here's your wall, here's your ceiling. Testing it up there so that you can see how it looks in natural light, but then also too under artificial lighting, because some colours, well, let's face it, depending on whether you have more of a warmer light or a cooler light, so depending on the Kelvin, it's going to look, the colour can change. So really important that you do those sorts of things in your home when you're testing colour. That way you won't be disappointed. But there's a couple of really beautiful colours that I would test for internal whites. And then also for external, if you're wanting to use a white externally, it's really important that you have a white that has enough substance in it. So when it's in full sun, you are not blinded by your white, so to speak, because whites can be quite glary. So when I look at whites, I generally reference what's called an LRV, which is the light reflectance value. So your colour will start at 0 being black and 100 being white, and then sort of, you know, you're going up closer to the white, the higher the LRV number. But if you're sitting at around about, so to give you an idea, Surf Mist, which is a number one white being used externally, and you look at that and you go, that's not white. And sure enough, it's not. It's a very, very soft sort of off-white. Once it is put outside, it can, in full sun, look a lot brighter and lighter. So really important to understand how your whites will perform externally. So for me, when I'm looking at whites, and so when I'm sitting here and I'm helping everyone at home on their colours, I generally look at whites that sit anywhere from around about 67. So surf mist is 67. So anywhere around about 67 to about 75. Sometimes pushing it closer to 80, but knowing that the lighter that you go, the brighter it is going to appear certain times of day outside. So it's really important to understand that. But for external purposes, using something like surf mist if you're after a white looks fantastic. And I guess the other thing, Caroline, to ask you is, for an external facade, what other colours are going with that? So I'm after something like your window colours, your roof colour, etc., and then I can help you. And if you're wanting a white, or are you wanting something perhaps with a little bit more colour? Are we looking at, given that you're doing a coastal style home, are you wanting some beautiful soft greys, soft blue greys, etc.? So come back with a little bit more information and I'll be very happy to sort of define a colour scheme for you. Thank you. Okay, so the other question that we had as well, what colours go with bricks? So I think I touched on that a moment ago. So really important to understand what we're working with. So as I said before, if you've got a brick that tends to have more of a red sort of tone, looking at something that opposite on the colour wheel. So colour that go with red toned bricks, I would recommend anything from, if you're looking for a colour-bond colour, something like a woodland grey that has more of that green undertone. But going into colours like this is a fantastic scheme you could create here. There's a colour here called Brimstone Smoke. So it's effectively going into a grey, but it's a grey that has a green sort of undertone. So working, as I'm saying, working with tones with that green sort of undertone, like to complement red. So when you look at greys, this is another good thing as well to understand. Greys can be quite tricky to work with, and some people love, they'll say, oh, I want a grey, and it's like, okay. And immediately, standard greys, you think of that blue sort of toned grey. But it's really important to understand there's quite a few different tones. So you've got a grey that has that blue undertone, so a blue-based grey. You've got a grey that has a brown undertone, so that takes you to what's called like a greyish. You've probably heard of greyish. You have a grey that has an undertone that has a purple or red undertone, and also, as I've just shown you a moment ago, a grey that tends to have more of a green undertone. So if you're starting a grey journey, if you like, looking at greys that have that green undertone are going to be an easy starting point. And the reason I say that is a green-based undertone, a green is more of a neutral. So a neutral tends to work really, really well with lots of other colours. And going back to interior colours, when we talk about whites, you've got a cool white, a warm white, and a neutral style white. And as I referenced before, talking about alpine snow fits into that sort of neutral style white. So it's going to work really, really well with a lot of other elements. So there's a couple of little tips there for you. And another really good tip, when you're embarking on your colour journey and you're standing there at the colour wall and you're looking for whites, excuse me, what I recommend doing is going pre-armed. So taking with you a piece of white computer paper, or when you're standing there at the colour wall looking for a colour chip that's called Brilliant White, as I mentioned before. Brilliant White is our stock standard white in the can. So, and then what you do is, so you've got your Brilliant White colour chip, or you have your piece of white computer paper. You can start to place the whites that you're looking at against either one of those. And what happens is when you're putting them against a cleaner, brighter white, if you like, you can start to see the undertone of the white come to life. So that's a really good trick for anybody that's about to embark on a colour journey, because I can guarantee a lot of colour journeys are all around white. Okay. Hi, Sally. Oh, sorry. Hi, Scally. Thank you very much for joining us. So when I mention the LRV, do we need to take that into account for internal white colours? Look, not necessarily, no. So for internal purposes, when it comes to white, the only time that I really reference LRV internally is when we're doing commercial jobs, ensuring that we have a 30% difference with a wall colour, and then say things like handrails. Say I'll reference an aged care facility if you like. So commercial application of colours. So you have a wall colour and then you've got a handrail. You need that 30% variance in the colours, like with LRVs and luminosity, etc. So really important to understand LRV for those sort of applications. But really when I'm talking about whites internally, I don't really reference LRV, to be honest. But I do reference it for external purposes, just to understand how having whites in direct sunlight can affect the overall look of the white, and ensuring that it's not going to be too glary, because there is nothing worse than, say, 7 o'clock in the morning, you're having a morning cup of tea outside and the sun is, the sun's just risen, sun's coming your way, and you need your sunglasses on because you can't sit there because the white's so bright. So that's why I reference LRV. I hope that helps. Okay, so let me have a look here. Okay, so you've also said, thank you, Scully, that you have a brochure of some Taubmans paints, but I can't find any colour swatches for them in the wall at Bunnings. And they said they weren't able to get them in. I live in a country town, about 2.5 from Coffs Harbour. So for Barbara, Shadows Deep, Cabargo Home. Let me have a look once I finish streaming, and I'll see if I can find them on our Taubmans website for you. If not, our brush out centre, and I'll be able to pop some links to the colours in there for you, and I'll see what I can do for you. Thank you. I'll take this one offline and have a look once we finish streaming. So I'll be in touch. Thank you. Okay, I've got lots of computer mouses here and it's all happening, so I'll just make sure I grab the right one. Oh, thanks, Natasha. You're saying, thanks, Fiona. You helped me a few weeks ago. Today, I got my Taubmans Endure in Heritage Rose. Oh, beautiful. And the colour is beautiful. I did, during my research here, that pink walls are the forgotten neutral. They are. So when you, the new neutrals, if you like, so green is one of the new neutrals, and we all know why. Green is just one of those colours that is just so easy to live with. You can pair it back with a lot of other colours. Works really, really well. And I think green's the type of colour that you're never going to tire of. But not only green, going into those soft pinks that sit on the edge of being not quite a beige, not quite a pink as well. They are also defined as the new neutral. And also as well, caramel tones, believe it or not. So they're another one of the new neutrals, if you like. So, and you're saying that you have a decent amount of prep to do, but I'm really looking forward to a new room sometime next week. That is so exciting. That's fantastic, Natasha. I would love for you to, once you've finished all of your painting, to share some images with us. We'd love to see how it all turns out. Very exciting, and I'd love to see the colour sort of, splashed across your walls. So yeah, please keep us posted with what you're doing. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Okay, thank you, Caroline. So you're saying, thank you for your advice. Thinking surf mist for the roof, fascia and gutters and garage door. White window frames, feature timber look aluminium battens. Looking for suggestions for complementary colours for render and cladding. Okay, the first colour that I think of is a colour which is called Oyster Bar. It's a beautiful tone and it sits wonderfully well with your surf mist, and it's a fantastic colour if you're creating that wonderful coastal aesthetic. So let me just see if I can find it. Any other time I can find it, just not now. Where are we? Here we go. This is the wonderful colour I'm talking about here. So I think it's the fourth one down. Yep. That is wonderful paired back against surf mist for that wonderful coastal, and obviously with your white windows. And then I would, and taking into consideration as well, you've got wonderful timber battens. So then you could stick with, we could warm you up a little. Actually, that's beautiful as well. Or we could keep it cool or cooler, keeping with the oyster bar and going, oh, that's amazing. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Bearing in mind you're going to be looking at a computer screen, which isn't always true to colour. So you've got your, I always do this, I get cack-handed when I'm trying to look into a screen there and look at the colours. So here's oyster bar. Then you've got a colour here called Eagle Crest, which is there, and then obviously down below here we've got Surf Mist. That is a wonderful coastal colour scheme, and pairing that with beautiful white windows as well, that would look fantastic. That would be the way I'd suggest going. So Eagle Crest, oyster bar, and then obviously with your Surf Mist, and then you've got timber as well, which is going to just add that certain little bit of warmth to that scheme as well. A fantastic coastal colour scheme. The other way, as I mentioned before, you could keep it all quite grey or greyer. So we could use oyster bar, and then, yeah, this looks lovely as well. My fan deck is so well loved. Honestly, let's have a look here. You can see that there. So you've got, again, Surf Mist, then we have oyster bar, and then above that is a colour called Newsprint. But again, that's a beautiful colour scheme that sits really, really well together. So that would be the other way as well. Let me know if that ticks the boxes for you. If not, very happy to give you some further suggestions. Okay, thanks Jack for joining us. So your question is for a 2-story house exterior, wooden boards top floor, brick at bottom. Is there a general rule about which should be the darker colour? We're also looking at repainting the roof a grey colour. Look, there's not. It's entirely up to you. I guess it's about the main thing when you are colouring up the exterior of a home is having balance so that it looks, it's creating that, it's number one, creating cohesion, balance, repetition. So having, if you're using a grey on the roof, etc., bringing that colour down somewhere else so that it doesn't all look, you know, sort of top heavy if you like. But there's not, it's not necessarily having, you know, round the bottom darker and then that next level lighter or the reverse. It's entirely up to what would appeal to you. I'm very happy, Caroline, you're very welcome. I'm very happy, Jack, if you want to pop, once we finish streaming, we've got a couple of minutes, if you'd like to send us a photo of the exterior that you're wanting to colour up, and I can certainly have a look and then see where I think the colours would look better placed if you like. I'd be very happy to do so. So just to ask you as well, so if you're looking at repainting the roof a grey colour, would you like a grey colour for that? And are you wanting some colours for the for both levels? Let me know about that as well, and I'd be very happy to give you some colour schemes. Thank you. Okay, let me see if I've got anything else here. Otherwise, I think I might be able to, let me just see. I think we've pretty well covered everything. That's great. I'm going to finish on time this evening. So I'm going to go off the screen in a moment. I'll finish streaming and then be behind the computer, as I said earlier on tonight, to answer some further questions. And I'll be very happy to help anyone if they've got any questions, any images they want to share. It's certainly the time to do so once we finish streaming. So we will be back next week, everybody, at the same time, same place. If you do have any questions, do feel free to send them to us in preparation for next week, and we'll be very happy to bring them to life for you. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening. And sharing all of your colour queries with us and product queries. It's always fantastic. We look forward to those each and every week. So do join us again next week. Until then, everybody, stay safe. And as I always say, happy painting, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks very much. Bye.